No, Maud." Indio shoved a big spoonful of soup into his mouth, and then, regrettably, continued talking. "He looks like a man, but bigger and scarier. His hands are as big as... Indio's little brows drew together as he tried to think of an appropriate simile. "Your head," Lily supplied helpfully. "A tricorn hat? A leg of lamb? Daffodil?" Daffodil barked at her name and spun in a happy circle. "Was he dripping wet or all over green?" Maud demanded. Lily sighed and watched as Indio attempted to describe his monster, and Maud attempted to identify it from her long list of fairies, hobgoblins, and imaginary beasts. Maud had grown up in the north of England, and apparently spent her formative years memorizing the most ghastly folk tales. Lily herself had heard these stories from Maud when she was young, resulting in quite a few torturous nights. She was endeavouring, mostly without success, to keep Maud from imparting the same stories to Indio. Her gaze drifted around the rather decrepit room they'd moved into just yesterday afternoon. A small fireplace was on one charred wall. Maud's bed and her chest were pushed against another. Their table and 4 chairs were in the middle of the room. A tiny writing table and a rickety dark plum settee were near the hearth. To the side, a door led into a small room, a former dressing room, where Lily had her own bed and Indio his cot. These 2 rooms were all that remained of the back stage in what had once been a grand theatre at Hart's Folly. The theatre, and indeed the entire pleasure garden, had burned down the autumn before. The stink of smoke still lingered about the place like a ghost, though the majority of the wreckage had been hauled away. Lily shivered. Perhaps the gloominess of the place was making Indio imagine monsters. Indio swallowed a big bite of his bread and jam. "He has shaggy hair, and he lives in the garden. Daff's seen him too." Both Lily and Maud glanced at the little greyhound. Daffodil was sitting by Indio's chair, chewing on a back paw. As they watched, she overbalanced and rolled onto her back. "Perhaps Daffodil ate something that disagreed with her tummy," Lily said diplomatically, "and the tummy ache made her think she'd seen a monster. I haven't seen a monster in the garden, and neither has Maud." "Well, there were that wherryman with the big nose hanging about the dock suspicious-like yesterday," Maud muttered. Lily shot her a look, and Maud hastily added, "But no, never seen a real monster. Just wherrymen with big noses." Indio considered that bit of information. "My monster has a big nose." His mismatched eyes widened as he looked up excitedly. "And a hook. Perhaps he cuts children into little bits with his hook and eats them." "Indio!" Lily exclaimed. "That's quite enough." "But, Mamma!" "No. Now, why don't we discuss fish clothing or how to teach Daffodil to sit up and beg?" Indio sighed gustily. "Yes, Mamma." He slumped, the very picture of dejection, and Lily couldn't help but think that he'd someday make a fine dramatic actor. She darted a pleading glance at Maud. But Maud only shook her head and bent to her own soup. Lily cleared her throat. "I'm sure Daffodil would benefit from training," she said, a little desperately. "I suppose." Indio swallowed the last spoonful of his soup and clutched his bread in his hand. He looked at Lily with big eyes. "May I leave the table, please, Mamma?" "Oh, very well." In a flurry, he tumbled from his chair and ran toward the door. Daffodil scampered behind him, barking. "Don't go near the pond," Lily called. The door to the garden banged shut. Lily winced and looked at the older woman. "That didn't go well, did it?" Maud shrugged. "Mayhap could have been better, but the lad is a sensitive one, he is. So were you at that age." "Was I?" Maud had been her nursemaid, and rather more.